Welcome to another episode of AutoMundial, where this week we take our first look at the new Volkswagen Arteon, as well as the latest Range Rover Evoque and a faster stay car from Volvo.
Plus, the most luxurious SUV we've ever seen, the Maybach GLS.
All that is still to come. First though,
the Cupra Ateca, a performance version of Seat's SUV, has undergone a mild facelift, complete with some new tech. Developed to offer the highest performance in the compact SUV segment outside the premium manufacturers, the Ateca is the first standalone model from Seat's performance offshoot. Inside the cabin sees the introduction of bucket seats, Alcantara upholstery, Cupra puddle lighting, and an expansive infotainment screen, providing an improved and contemporary digitalized experience. One thing hasn't changed though: Cupra's distinctive styling upgrades. The Akrapovic quad exhaust system, together with an updated honeycomb radiator grille and striking rear diffuser, make this a standout car among the sea of copy and paste SUVs. Under the bonnet, recalibrated steering and throttle response provide greater feel, with 4 drivetrain options to adjust damping, engine characteristics and steering weight, along with some extra safety technology too. The Ateca is now a more complete package.
the first generation Range Rover Evoque was a bestseller since its launch back in 2011. Representing Land Rover's first foray into the compact premium SUV market, many critics were unsure if it really deserved the Range Rover name. The public, however, was sure, and it's consistently outsold rivals ever since. Now, though, there's a new one. At first glance, you may struggle to notice many changes, but the 2020 Evoque is an all-new car. Evolution rather than revolution, the latest model aims to build on the success of the first generation while taking inspiration from the bigger Velar and Sport models. The basic recipe remains unchanged: a premium look, Land Rover capabilities and Range Rover luxuries in a stylish compact package. The lines are ultra clean, a clear successor of the old car. The new Evoque is as crisp and modern as its bigger stablemates. Look closely and the details are truly beautiful. The door handles sit flush against the bodywork, while the thin headlights taper into the bold wheel arches. And despite a longer wheelbase for more cabin space, the proportions remain virtually identical to the old model. Refreshing in a time when every new car seems to be slightly bigger than the one it replaces. Perhaps the main reason for this is, as the British SUV maker's smallest model, the company views it as somewhat of a city car. It recognises that Evoque buyers tend to be more urban-centric than the landed gentry queuing up for the full fat models.
So if it's going to be spending most of its time in city street gridlock, the cabin needs to be a nice place for occupants, especially when the similarly sized Discovery Sport is so much cheaper. Luckily, interiors are something of a strong point for Range Rovers, and the new Evoque is no exception. Climb inside and you're greeted by some of the finest materials this side of a Rolls-Royce. The design is as smooth and elegant as the exterior, while 3 infotainment screens mean the tech is up to scratch against rival systems. The improved interior space will ensure its continued popularity among family buyers, as well as the improved ride and refinement. It's noticeably quieter than the old car, helped by the addition of a new 48-volt mild hybrid system in all but the base spec diesel versions and plug-in hybrid version. Crucially for a Range Rover, it's fantastically comfortable, most noticeably on bumpy roads where even the low-profile tyres can't upset the ride quality.
However, no Range Rover is deserving of its badge if it can't handle itself when the going gets tough. Thankfully, the Evoque more than holds its own here, with Land Rover's ingenious off-road tech keeping everything in check. Approach angles have been improved too, but if you do plan on getting muddy, be warned that the entry-level model is two-wheel drive. But despite countless improvements over the old model, it's still hard to justify over many others in this class. It's not the roomiest or the sportiest, and certainly not the cheapest, but it still has that special something over Audis, Mercedes, and even Volvos. It has a touch of class in the way it functions. It's cosseting, almost homely, and utterly appropriate for its target market. It feels at home wherever you take it. It's a car you buy because you want it, not just because you need an SUV. It's somehow a cut above the rest, and in that sense, it really must be a true Range Rover.
As petrol heads, we have a big soft spot for fast estate cars. You can use them every day, lugging around the family, dogs and luggage. But for almost as long as we can remember, the fast estate market has been dominated by the Germans. With Audi's S and RS models, various AMG wagons and even the occasional M-car variant, there's been little reason to look elsewhere. But with sales in the segment dwindling, some manufacturers are pulling their performance estate cars from the market, while the ones that remain are being downsized, or in Audi's case, switching to diesel power. Now though, Volvo has returned to the fight with this, the V60 T8. Volvo has always liked to do things a little differently though, and this new T8 is no exception. You see, the new 385 brake horsepower family hauler is in fact a hybrid. With a 299 brake horsepower 2-litre turbocharged and supercharged petrol engine up front, the T8 makes use of the 90 series car's hybrid system, adding an extra 86 horsepower, allowing for a 0 to 62 time of just under 5 seconds. It's certainly quick then. But the all-wheel drive V60 T8 has an ace up its sleeve: fuel economy. Thanks to the hybrid setup, the T8 is capable of up to 166 miles per gallon, making it vastly more economical than any rivals from Germany. CO2 is low too, at just 39 grams per kilometre. In true Volvo style, the V60 T8 doesn't shout about its performance credentials. Put your foot down and you won't hear any loud engine noise or popping exhaust. There's no Alcantara trim or bucket seats either. In fact, it all just feels like a normal Volvo, and that's no bad thing. Even when you give it the full beans, it remains quiet and refined. On a cruise, about the loudest thing you'll hear is the wind noise around the door mirrors. But does that mean the fast Volvo isn't exciting? Well, most of the time it's exceptionally smooth. The transition between the petrol and electric motors are seamless. Put your foot down and both are engaged. But there's no real reward for taking it up to the red line. Instead, you're better off making use of the low-down grunt, and you'll soon discover just how rapid this car really is. Unfortunately, the chassis isn't quite as surprising. While the suspension is firmer than on a standard V60, it isn't as involving or as playful as any of its German rivals. Even with the special setup, it feels tuned more towards comfort than handling ability. That said, there is plenty of grip, and the chassis never feels too stressed. Sadly, it just isn't an exciting car to drive.
So what about the obvious choice, the Audi S4 Avant? Well, in an effort to keep up with electrified models and make the RS4 seem more appealing, the S4 is now diesel-powered. It gets a 3-litre V6 producing 342 brake horsepower with a 0 to 62 time of 4.8 seconds. On paper then it's a match for the Volvo, but can it get your blood pumping? Well, like the Volvo, the noise is disappointing, but where the Volvo is quiet and refined, the Audi's noise can be a little bit annoying. Audi has clearly tried to spice it up a bit with a fruity exhaust, but no amount of engineering can make a diesel sound particularly good.
Neither of these is a great driver's car then, but it's the Volvo that gets our vote. It looks great, it's comfortable, and the fuel economy is on a whole other level. It's a far cry from fast estates of old, but it is still a deeply appealing load lugger.
After the break, VW's new Arteon and a Maybach SUV.
Still to come, the Maybach GLS. But first,
What do you do if you want a smart saloon car but don't want a flashy premium badge? Well, if the likes of the Vauxhall Insignia and Ford Mondeo are a bit too bland, VW has you covered with this, the Arteon. Recently revealed with an updated look for 2020, the new Arteon is the Passat's angry sibling with more aggressive styling and a lower coupe-like roofline. The front and rear bumpers have both been updated and there's a range of new colour options. But despite the Arteon's good looks, up until now it's always played second fiddle to the cheaper, more practical Passat. Now, though, VW has added some versatility to the lineup with the Arteon Shooting Brake, or Estate to you and me. Unlike the saloon version, it remains a flatter roofline for more headroom and a bigger boot. In fact, with the parcel shelf removed and rear seats folded, it isn't far off a Passat estate with over 1,600 litres of space. The shooting brake should certainly extend Arteon's appeal then, especially as we can think of very few estate cars that look half as good as this. The interior has also received some minor updates. There are some new wood veneers available, and all cars now come with at least part leather upholstery. It also gets an updated infotainment system like the one in the new Golf, and all sorts of clever new tech like the travel assist function, which allows you to drive hands-free up to 130 miles per hour. The most exciting update, however, is the arrival of a new R model. We've always thought the Arteon deserved a performance variant, and here it is. Available both as a saloon and an estate, the Arteon R aims to tempt buyers away from the BMW 3 Series, with 316 brake horsepower on tap, courtesy of a turbocharged 2-litre. Power is sent to all four wheels via a 7-speed double-clutch auto box. It also gets a torque vectoring system which can send all of the engine's power to one wheel if required. And of course, it wouldn't be an R model without some suitably sporty styling tweaks. In this case, the R versions get enormous 20-inch alloys, a mean-looking body kit with bigger splitters and diffusers, quad exhausts and some body-hugging sports seats trimmed in Napa leather. The R models also sit lower and have some meaty 18-inch brake discs with 4 piston calipers up front for extra stopping power.
However, the Arteon R isn't the only sporty saloon with a humble badge. This is the Kia Stinger GTS, a turbocharged V6 bruiser with 365 brake horsepower being sent straight to the rear wheels. It's a car like nothing we've seen from Kia before or since, with fantastic performance and a real premium feel throughout. In fact, step inside and you could be forgiven for thinking you just got into something with much more badge appeal. The cabin is trimmed in soft leather with lots of modern trim and a big infotainment screen. It looks the part too, with a coupe-like roofline, muscular wheel arches and 4 massive tailpipes, letting you know this isn't the diesel model. Plant your right foot and the Stinger erupts with a sonorous V6 howl as the traction control scrambles to keep the rear end in check. It's not quite an M3 or RS4, but this is a genuinely quick car. getting from a standstill to 62 miles per hour in under 5 seconds, onto a top speed of 168. There is one giveaway that this is new territory for Kia, however. The paddle shift gearbox feels a little slow and clumsy compared to many others on the market, but it's by no means a deal breaker, and the finely tuned chassis more than makes up for it, making it feel much lighter than it actually is. It's a car you can grab by the scruff of the neck on a twisty road and then let it settle down for a comfortable commute, with all the luxuries of more mainstream alternatives. It's a terrific car and definitely worth considering if you're after an affordable performance saloon.
Both of these cars show that you don't need to head straight to the usual suspects of BMW, Audi and Mercedes for a quick, stylish saloon car. They're totally left field and great cars for those who want to stand out.
The Mercedes GLS is among the biggest and most luxurious SUVs on the market. It essentially takes all of the beautiful materials and cutting-edge tech from the S-Class and wraps them all up in a vast 7-seat 4x4. This one though is the Maybach version, and it turns everything up to 11. Aimed squarely at the Bentley Bentayga and Rolls-Royce Cullinan, it's quite simply the most opulent Mercedes you can buy. And its reveal comes as no real surprise. After all, the Bentayga and Cullinan are both selling well, while 1 in 7 S-Classes sold in 2018 was a Maybach. So what marks the Mercedes Maybach GLS apart from the standard car? Well, to give it the signature Maybach look, Mercedes has ditched the standard radiator grille in favour of a shinier one. The front bumper's been redesigned too, with yet more chrome, while the rear bumper gets a similar treatment. In fact, there's chrome just about everywhere. Around the windows, on the skid plates, and it even gets chrome roof rails. 22-inch wheels come as standard with the option to upgrade to these mammoth 23s. It also gets a range of exclusive paint jobs, including various two-tone combinations, but we'd just go for black to maximise the car's menacing presence. But it's inside the cabin where you'll notice the biggest differences between this and a regular GLS. The standard car isn't exactly Spartan, but the Maybach is on a whole other level. It all starts when you open the door handle to get in. The car lowers itself by 25mm, while a 2-metre long chrome running board folds out from behind the sill. And it isn't like watching an old Range Rover on air suspension slowly lowering itself. The whole process happens in just a second. After all, time is money, and while the price hasn't yet been revealed, we'll take a punt and say it will be quite high. In the front, it all looks fairly familiar. There's the enormous Mercedes infotainment system, albeit with Maybach graphics, and the same dashboard from the normal GLS, just with fancier wood and leather.
We think it's in the back though, where most Maybach customers will find themselves. The Bentley and Rolls might be targeted at drivers, but the Maybach seems like a car to be chauffeured in. It's available with either a 3-seat rear bench or 2 incredible reclining massage chairs. Looking like they've been lifted straight from Emirates first-class cabin, they're endlessly adjustable and are separated by an enormous centre console featuring a climate control panel, 2 folding tables and an optional champagne cooler with a pair of silver flutes. Naturally, there are some big screen tablets back there too, which can be used for scheduling meetings or watching AutoMundial. The entire cabin is trimmed in the finest Napa leather, while all the wood has been carefully aged for 10 years. What a relief. It also gets an astounding 27-speaker Burmester sound system, which is enhanced by the partition between the passengers and the boot. Other highlights include the standard tilting panoramic roof and the 64-colour customisable ambient lighting system, which lets you bathe the cabin in the perfect colour to suit your mood. Speaking of which, Mercedes has tried to give the Maybach GLS its own unique atmosphere with a special smell. According to Mercedes, it has its own signature fragrance. The white osmanthus blossom, floral and light, is rounded off by a gentle leather note and spicy tea. Right.
The way this thing drives is perhaps the least important thing about it. But you'll be pleased to hear that Mercedes hasn't skimped by giving it a diesel. Oh no, it gets a reworked version of a 4-litre bi-turbo V8 found in the AMG GT, developing 550 brake horsepower. Drive goes through a 9-speed box, while a 48-volt mild hybrid system helps to fill in the gaps and save fuel. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes a barely believable 4.9 seconds onto a limited top speed of 155 miles per hour. We know the Mercedes Maybach JLS won't be to everyone's taste. It's vulgar, extravagant and really quite bling. But it's not every day a new car is released with a champagne cooler in the back, and for that we can't help but admire it.
Join us again next week as we preview an all-new 4x4 to rival the Land Rover Defender, the Ineos Grenadier.